Hi, welcome. This is artist at the Center for Human Flourishing, Davina Kent, Always Light. And we're here this evening with Allecia Maine, who is the animal healer, who is a local Carbondale resident who has a very holistic care approach towards your pets, animals, anything furry that you are in love with. So welcome, Allecia.
Thank you so much. It's really, really nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And so I will share, I guess, my background and the work that I do. And basically what I do is I help animals heal. And it's on many different levels. I started as a fitness trainer, so I understood a lot about human health and healing. And then I was lucky enough to have a client who kind of became my spiritual mom. And she got me into acupuncture with my Chinese doctor, and then I started studying a ancient self-healing practice called Qigong. And Qigong was kind of interesting because I had no awareness of energy. I mean, knew I loved animals since the time I was 5 years old. I wanted to help them heal, and I thought I would be a veterinarian. But then math and science came in, and I did not win. So the thought of becoming a veterinarian to help animals heal kind of was out of the picture. But many, many years later, through fitness training and understanding anatomy and physiology and the body, and then layering that with Chinese medicine and understanding meridians and energy fields, I was lucky enough to go on a trip to Hawaii to study animal communication, because I had a feeling there was something more. I just didn't know what it was. So I got a call one day from a friend, and she said, "You need to go on this trip." And I went on the trip, and it was an incredible trip of learning how to open that channel back up, because I always had it as a kid. But you know, adults, they tell you animals don't speak. I mean, what are you talking about? You can't, like, the only way you can help animals heal is if you become a veterinarian. So I had stuffed that dream, but what I realized through my experience with a dolphin one-on-one, she was literally like hanging in front of me and sort of beaming me this energy towards my stomach. And she started giggling, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She said, "What do you think I'm doing?" I said, "I don't know, but you're like doing, there's golden light in my stomach and it's changing." And she just laughed and she said, "It'll unfold for you." And I was like, "Well, okay." So that experience led to a 25-year career in animal communication. And I eventually also started training dogs. So I became a holistic dog trainer because I started to understand that behavior for animals it's not just about behavior and training. There's a body there. And if the body is out of alignment, you can often have behavior problems or health problems. So my career as the animal healer really has kind of so interestingly led me on this path of just connecting so many different dots that the only way I thought I was going to be able to help animals heal was if I went to veterinary school. But what I realized later was, no, they're showing you different ways to help animals heal that's not exactly included in the veterinary medical schools. And it doesn't make one right or wrong or good or bad. It's just different aspects. So a lot of the work that I do, and I've worked with animals all over the world. There was a book that one of my clients wrote called Soul Dog, The Spiritual Lives of Animals. Was the inspiration for it was an incident that she had with her dog, who was given a diagnosis of degenerative myelopathy by 3 different vets, including a neurologist. So one day her dog Brio was walking down the street in New York City, and he's a giant poodle, so he is a large dog. And all of a sudden his back end just collapsed. And so the diagnosis they gave was degenerative myelopathy, meaning that his discs were basically kind of degenerating, and he probably wasn't going to ever walk normally again. And her friend was a client of mine who we just had a great success with his dog in New York City. while I was in Colorado. So I was working on his dog from Colorado, and we changed her behavior. And so my client, was Peter's friend, he said, you have nothing to lose. Call Allecia. Like, there's a possibility that maybe, you've already gotten 3 veterinary diagnoses. Look in another direction. So I got on the phone with her, and she asked me to connect with Brio, and I connected with him, and he just said, you're going to help me in 3 sessions. He goes, I'm going to walk again. He goes, what they're saying, he said, it's a correct definition. He said, but they're not correct about how it happens and why. And I said, okay. And he said, it's going to be 3 sessions, but you're going to heal my back, and I'm going to run again, and I'm going to walk again. Now, I mean, if I was the client, of course I'd want to hear that, but I'm here in Colorado, she's there in New York City, and I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. So he said he can walk. He said there's some things out in his back, and if I can address them properly, he will walk again. So I did a distance healing session on him, and after the first session, he started walking again. So she was thrilled, and I said, okay, we have 2 more to go. I can't guarantee any of this, but we'll see based on what he knows about his own body. We'll keep working. Well, by the second session, he was trotting around. And by the third session, he was kind of running and jumping around, because he said what happened
Okay. You're good.
So, sorry about that. So, Brio landed up going on at 8 years old. We basically got all of his functioning back. And my client happened to be an award-winning producer, and she had learned about and knew about animal communication prior, because she had done a TV show on it. And she decided to write a book based on this experience called Soul Dog, The Spiritual Lives of Animals. So my work is featured, and it's in that book. It was the inspiration for the book, because even though she knew about animal communication, there's certain things you can still deny when you're communicating with that. Well, it could be a fluke. The doctors could go, well, it's a fluke. So you worked with someone. That doesn't really totally mean anything. But because of what happened, because she had 3 veterinary diagnoses, because she was with her dog the whole time, seeing him not walk and then seeing this transformation, she could not deny the fact that not only is animal communication very valid, because remember something, I was over 1,500 miles away, and I had never met this dog in person, never laid my hands on him. So the other thing that you kind of start to realize you can't deny is that the quantum energy field really does exist. Now, I learned about the quantum energy field through my studies with Qigong. And I wasn't learning about it understanding that, oh, this is quantum physics. I failed math and science. Quantum physics was like, never in this lifetime would I ever even consider grasping that, right? But yet here I am working on her dog in, a distance of 1,500 miles, knowing exactly what I'm doing. The dog is picking up the inputs in its body, and it's getting better, because there was nothing else that she was doing. She wasn't going to a chiropractor at the time. What was happening was really fascinating in terms of learning about animals and animals' bodies, and really learning, like, how do we apply quantum physics in real life? And to even consider the fact that I could possibly understand quantum physics just made me laugh so hard, because I was like, that's got to be a joke. because I'm the girl that knew nothing about math and science and got like a 42 on my geometry region. So how in the, or my my chemistry region. So how in the world am I going to understand something as complex? You know, as some of those formulas that you see up on the board, and then you have these guys look and they're checking things, and I'm like, how are you understanding quantum physics if you can't apply it to anything? Right? But I landed up somehow understanding it through Qigong and understanding that everything is connected and everything is energy. And energy can change, right? Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can change forms. So if energy is flowing, you got health. If energy is stuck, you don't have health. You know, you have an imbalance. So that led me to really focusing on not just my communication work, because obviously if there's a problem and you take an animal to the vet, you go through all the tests and they're like, we don't know what to tell you. Like everything is coming back normal. We don't have an answer for you, yet there is clearly still something wrong with that animal. I kind of was glad to know about energy work because what my Chinese teacher used to tell us all the time, because you know, when you're looking at health and healing, he said, the more that you can tune into your body and the more that you can perceive when something's happening on an energetic level, the easier time you're going to have fixing that. He said, but when that thing becomes physical and now you're getting these actual tests back that tell you, well, you know, your enzymes are off, or your, you know, these values for your kidney or your liver or your heart are high, or, you know, you've got this disease in your bloodstream. He said, it's much more difficult to fix. So he said, it's, you know, the more that you can stay in tune with the lightness of what's happening in the body energetically before it actually solidifies, the better chance you have of being and staying healthy or correcting it. So that was always fascinating to me, because even when I worked with humans, you know, it was like, I was like, it's funny, or not funny, but we often do testing on animals, right? To understand things in the world of science about humans. Well, I tested things on humans so I could understand things about the world with animals. And now I'm really, really lucky, because now I can do, you know, validatable research with them, but nobody has to get hurt because we're working through the energy field. So it's like, I don't have to inject them with anything to see if, you know, what level are you going to get sick? Well, if they're going to get sick anyway, maybe you shouldn't be doing it at any level. But it's been fascinating, because everything I've learned on my journey through this animal healing process has literally been from working directly with the animals and getting their feedback. So it's been awesome because the animal communication helped, right? Because I can hear them and they're giving me very clear, specific instructions. What's wrong, how to shift it, what to do. So anybody that thinks, well, they're just an animal, they don't know, they know. They know so much more than we realize. And that's been one of the most fascinating parts of my journey. I was like, everyone says you guys don't know anything. What, like, how did this happen? It's like this big collusion of humans thinking like the animals don't, like, what do they know? And I'm like, oh my God, if only, you know, like if only we studied with them, we would know so much more that's in them than what's in any medical textbook out there. It's amazing. So my whole path and process, really, as much as I, you know, grew up and had that issue with math and science, I didn't think I would ever be able to follow my dream of helping animals heal. But somehow, through learning and understanding anatomy and physiology with humans, and then transferring that to understanding it with animals, and then studying Qigong and studying animal communication, studying about homeopathy and studying about flower essences and studying about quantum work, has led to a place where, you know, especially when people have brought their animals to the doctors and they're sort of like, sorry, we don't have answers, or sorry, there's nothing else we can do. It's been extraordinarily beneficial, because they know what's going on. So to just talk with them directly, it gives a much better perspective of, here's what's happening. And sometimes the reality is it's not always physical. But what I have discovered, this was because of the dogs that I was training, they shared with me, listen, before you work with us, and this was relating to a lot of behavior issues, they said in Chinese medicine, you learned about alarm points on the back of the body. And those alarm points, as you go down the back, they connect in with different organs. They connect in with different nerves. They said, why don't you try doing an assessment the same way a doctor would do? They're like, why don't you do this on our back, down those alarm points? And why don't you just see, is there any place we're uncomfortable? That you could pet us and you might not realize it. You could be playing with us. We could be running around. It's kind of like unrecognized in terms of pain or discomfort. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. Here I'm talking with them. So like no one yet can think I'm crazy because I haven't yet shared this with the humans that this is what the animals have told me to do and I'm doing it. So I started assessing the animals' backs, and lo and behold, in almost every single behavior case, there was anywhere from 1 to 5 spots where when I gently pressed down on their back, on the muscles, they had a reaction. And I thought, all right, like I'm a dot connector. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do with this information? And they kept saying, connect the dots, connect the dots. And so every time I would test and I'm like, did you know your dog had pain here? And they're like, had no idea. I massage my dog. I'm with my dog all the time. Had no idea. Well, as I started realizing, wait a second, what happens if I use a muscle release technique and I help you release that pain? Nothing can hurt. At least you're not uncomfortable anymore. That was about the most that I had hoped for. Well, what I started realizing was, holy mackerel, when they're in unrecognized pain, they've usually suffered some kind of trauma. It could be banging into another dog. It could be when your puppy, thinks they got it to make the couch and they miss, and they bang themselves around. So all of a sudden, as I start releasing these back points, and just from the muscles, all of a sudden the dogs start taking a deep breath and they start completely relaxing. And what I came to the person's house to do to fix the problem or the behavior, we go to walk outside and I'm like, okay, show me the behavior. They're like, well, of course they're not doing it now. And I'm like, isn't this interesting? Because I would start out every session. They said, test every single dog you work with and start seeing what happens. And it was just sort of, it didn't matter. It didn't matter the breed. It didn't matter the age. It didn't matter the temperament. It didn't matter, what their training or not training was. It didn't even matter what their issues were. But consistently, as I did that, I was like, this is amazing. Everybody's trying to work on behaviors as if it's a neurological brain science aspect. That's the problem. They don't understand. They need to learn this. Yet, as soon as I worked on their bodies and they took a deep breath, every single one of them just kind of looked at me like, what's the problem? And I'm like, don't you have a problem? And they're like, I don't have a problem. And I'm like, wow. So your behavior problem was actually coming because you had unrecognized pain in your system. They were like, pretty much, because I don't have it now and I'm fine. And it was just, I just kept seeing it in case after case after, and I was like, there's always, what they say, researcher bias. You know what I mean? There's always the possibility that I would have liked for that to happen. But I also was like, well, I'm not showing up with any kind of expectation. I don't know if it's what I'm doing or not. I'm just seeing this is what's consistently happening. So really opened my eyes completely to how do you actually heal behaviors? And it's actually more that you go to the body first to make sure that there's no static. That's the first place you start. I eventually landed up inventing a harness and leash training system for dogs because I had such a horrible time with my dog when he was younger. He was a chocolate lab. And I swear, I think he was like Marley's grandfather. I think he thought his name was Barney No, because that's all you could hear me yelling down the street. So when I coupled these two things, realizing, well, wait a minute, a lot of dogs are on collars, they're getting their neck yanked around, they pull on things, they can flip themselves over backwards. I was like, what happens when you combine releasing the tension in the back and the body? And you also have them on training tools that don't straighten the neck, but that are really respectful, and that they actually understand it. They will self-correct themselves, so you don't have to correct them. And I really just started watching behaviors transform, because I have clients that will tell me, listen, we saw 6 trainers. I had a family in Aspen, they have a German Shepherd, and it was like, look, we've had Shepherds all our lives. We do not know what to do with this Shepherd. We've seen 5 trainers. We really don't want to shock this dog, but we're at our wits' end, because he's a big 110-pound Shepherd, and he's going after people, and he's going after other dogs, and we don't know what to do. And so my greeting with this dog was that he was in my face, about that far from my face, with snapping jaws. And I thought, this is dangerous, really, really dangerous. And the first question I finally asked him when I got in the door was, has anybody ever checked this dog's body for misalignments? And they were like, well, he did have surgery, and he's having surgery, stuff's already off balance, right? So we worked through his body, we got him calmer. And the fascinating thing about the Shepherd was that he literally was mirroring every single person in that household. And so when we would go to walk, it was never about fix the dog. It was always about, okay, look, the dog's body's in alignment now, so he's okay. But what's actually going on with you, human? You know, are you feeling tense, but you don't even realize it? Are you feeling nervous? You know, so it's been an amazing journey of learning directly from the animals what's actually really taking place. And just like us humans, you know, we can have a physical issue, but it can also have an emotional, psychological, or spiritual component. The animals are the same. And one thing that I consistently kept up with was doing these back assessments. And after doing about 800 assessments, I was like, there is something here about the body being the body being in alignment, actually producing proper brain chemistry. So it really kind of started me realizing, you know, maybe neuroscience is just a little backwards. Maybe we have to understand structure first before we even assess neurochemicals. Because I'm finding from the animals, I worked with an amazing vet many, many years ago, Dr. Harry Gurney, who was brilliant. And he was down in Evergreen, Colorado. And he always said, he's like, animals never lie. And he said, bodies never lie. So by checking the body, it couldn't lie to me where it was bothering itself, you know, or where it was out. And then by just opening it, taking a big deep breath, the whole entire central nervous system relaxed. So it's completely switched the brain chemistry to relaxation and openness. And eventually I just started creating what I call the in-sync body assessment and muscle release protocol. And so I've probably honestly worked on over 2,500 animals with it, whether I was physically in person with them or they were at a distance. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work at a distance. I was sure that it would align the body. I had no idea if it would have effect on behavior. But clients would call me the next day and say, look, I know I called you, so I don't think I'm crazy, but you worked on my animal yesterday and we went out for a walk today and there is no more behavior issue. So that kind of rules out the theory that in order to change something, you have to train something. If you actually get the physiology correct, it'll switch the neurological chemicals and the chemistry. And all of a sudden, you have a calm, relaxed, centered, and grounded being that maybe yesterday could have been wanting to bite somebody's head off. And I know it sounds super complex, but it's actually really, really simple. Think alignment, body alignment, actually determines so much more about how we behave. And so if we're not taking that into account for our animals, to keep them healthy, to keep them safe, because while I wanted to help animals heal, it looks like my 30-year career between fitness training and then working with animals, it's always been about how do you bring about the highest level of health as simply and easily as possible and as naturally as possible. So the instinct method, I created it, and then I kind of kept wondering, I was like, can I actually teach this to animal parents? Because I was like, could you imagine? Well, I mean, I know it from myself, right? Before I knew any of this, everything was always at the mercy of, oh my God, something happened. Okay, we got to go to the vet. Something happened. Oh my God, we have to go to the vet. Because I was so nervous and I didn't know about energy systems and I didn't know things could shift. So what's actually taken place now is just this awareness that it's not just that I can do it. I can teach this to any animal parent on the planet, even online. And when we do, I teach online courses. And when we do this online, it is hilarious because inevitably we start the class with certain dogs that are like, oh my God, I can't get them to sit still. They won't relax. They're jumping around, you know. And I'm not kidding. Like, even by the end of the first class, everybody's mellow. Everybody's like totally chill. And people are like, how did that happen, right? Some of them either have, you know, like rambunctious puppies, or they have like the 5 or 6 or 7-year-old that has just never calmed down. You know, they're just hyper, and you think, oh God, I have to exercise them. I have to exercise them. So I teach animal parents how to do the assessment, and then also how to do the muscle release technique. And they are floored because they realize how long and how much time they have invested in trying to change a behavior when that was sort of like the Band-Aid. The reality was something stuck in the body. If you can clear that, then you're actually the behavior is going to shift without you really having to do very much. So I now teach that in an online course, which is starting on July 2nd. We have found, I was just talking to a client of mine down in Florida. She had contacted me a while back. Her cousin gave her my phone number because she read the book Soul Dog. And her dog had just been diagnosed with 2 slip discs in C6 and C7. And she said, listen, you have nothing to lose. Call this woman. And this sweet little Maltese, kind of like a wreck. I think she was almost a train wreck from the beginning. Like, I think she literally had neurological stuff since the beginning. And she's now 10. Dog was totally afraid of thunderstorms. She'd go outside, would bark her head off. Just, you know, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Bark at mailboxes, bark at people. She was terrified of so many different things. And just by doing some body work, you know, at a distance, because I've never met this dog in person. I've seen pictures of her, but I've never met her. She just did a testimonial for me last night. She goes, you know, this dog, if there was a thunderstorm, and this woman lives in Florida, poor dog, right? With thunderstorms in the springtime and summer. She said, this dog, she said she was inconsolable. She said, we would sit with her, we would put on music, we would do everything. She said, it wouldn't matter. She would just literally freak out. And she was telling me just yesterday, first of all, she said, not only did we not have to have the surgery, she said, this dog now can go through a thunderstorm like, whatever, like there's no big deal. She is calm, she is happy. And this is at 10 years old, and this is with no behavior training. Right? So I'm not there working with them. I'm just working on her body at a distance. When she calls me and says, hey, she can't shake her head, you know, too much. So can you just put her back into alignment? And it's fascinating to me. Like, I'd love to be egotistical about it and be like, yeah, I'm so good at what I do. But I'm not. I am fascinated every single time I work with a client, whether it's a dog or a cat or a horse or a bird. I am fascinated. Just as much as anybody else might be like, that's not possible. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm so grateful that in my case, I'm so grateful I was so bad at math and science. I'm so grateful. So, you know, it's allowed me to do what I really wanted to do. It's just shown me a completely different way of doing it. So if your animals are experiencing any kind of health or behavior issues, if you are, anywhere near, if you have an older dog and you're anywhere near that sort of end of life kind of questions, if you want to literally put the power of healing back in your own hands, I'm starting my in-sync body assessment and muscle release class on July 2nd. And I can share with you a link to the page for all the information for that. But I will literally teach you step by step. I will guide you through really what most trainers don't even understand about behaviors, because most trainers don't even understand or study the inside of the body. So they don't understand how all of these layers are connected and all of these layers are built up. They think they're just dealing with a brain, but I'm like, we have to take the body into account. So if you want to know the best way to train your dog to help correct certain behaviors, to help shift certain health issues and really address the root of those issues, click on the link that we're going to provide for you and come study with me. It's an amazing class. It's 4 days. Just give me 4.5 hours and I will totally transform your awareness of who your animal actually is, what's going on in their bodies, and give you the very, very specific tools. These guys are your tools to literally change and shift the energy so that the behaviors you're seeing or the health that you're seeing or the lack of health that you're seeing can transform really quickly and really easily and in not a lot of time. I mean, that's also the beautiful part. And if you have a dog that's feeling great, fantastic. You got a dog that plays frisbee, you got, we're out in the mountains. You have dogs that hike. Well, some of us exercise a lot, which means our dogs exercise a lot. So even with them being in great shape, we still want to know if certain areas are tight. Because if certain areas of their back are tight, it is going to cause compensation patterns, which could be detrimental down the line. So it doesn't have to mean that there's something happening with your dog, even if you want to just keep them in the best shape and know exactly what's happening in their bodies. You do not have to be a doctor to do that. I mean, you do have to be a doctor if you're looking at blood tests and medical work, absolutely. But for overall health, for overall conditioning, for overall energy flow and chi flow, that's not something you have to have a medical degree for. And so to just have, a lot of times my clients tell me, like, I can't believe I didn't know this, and I'm so grateful that I do now, because it's something you will have with you for the rest of your life. And at any time you can use it. So benefit for your animal because they stay safe and balanced and healthy, and benefit for you because it really does make a difference. If you see something going on with your dog and they're limping, and all of a sudden you can start palpating their back and you can see and find where that tight muscle is and you can release it for them, and all of a sudden your animal stops limping, how much relief do you feel that it's like, I have the power to do that. I have the power to help my beloved furry family member that easily and that quickly. So if you're interested, I'd love for you to join me. If you have any questions or you want to set up a consult, if you've had behavior training issues that just there's certain things that's just not resolving, or if you have certain health issues and you're just not getting to the bottom of what the root of the issue is, please feel free to contact me at www.animalhealer, and that's HEELER.com, and we will provide the link below for you for the class that's taking place. So I hope you have a great day. I'm really grateful to live in this valley, and I'm really grateful to be amongst such incredible people. And I see Rita raising her hand because she wants to say something.
I do want to say something. I'm so thrilled. I've known Allecia for many years, and I hadn't taken advantage of her incredible skill until about 3 months ago, when our almost 16-and-a-half-year-old lab was falling, literally just over, couldn't keep her feet underneath her, crossing her front legs, back legs, and really having difficulty getting around. And so I called Allecia, and after one session, she was incredibly improved and up doing her very slow wandering around the yard again. It has held for a period of time, and then just because she's elder and things don't always hold, we did another session a few days ago, and it's just extraordinary, and her quality of life is there for her at this time. And I also had Allecia check in with her to find out from her, are we doing enough for her? How does she feel about this falling over thing? And Allecia heard from Sophia, what's going on with her, and that we're doing the best we can for her, and she does want to be here for a bit yet. So that was hugely reassuring to me. And I don't know if I've shared with people in my family, what's happened, because they see her straighten up and go straight go straight again, and they're beginning to understand that something's happening. And I'm an energy worker, and I understand what Alicia's doing. And when she sends the report about what she's assessed on the spine, I reinforce that with Sophia by using my mind to reinforce the work that Alicia's done. So I feel that Alicia's definitely partnering with Sophia and with me to give her a good quality of life as we go through her winding down time. So I'm just so grateful. And
I'm so honored because we have known each other for a really long time, and knowing everything that you do with the humans and how much you love your animals and how much you have helped so many people improve their health and their well-being and their quality of life and their consciousness, through Davina Kent. It's such an honor, honestly, to be able to support your beloved, and that end of life piece. It's a hard time for any of us, and that the worst part is like the not knowing, because like if we can't communicate with the animal, then we have to go by it's almost like we're responsible for making that call, so to speak. And it's devastating because it's like, well, I don't know what. So to be able to utilize animal communication, to be able to connect directly with the animals and find out from them, how would you like your person to support you? What are your wishes and desires? So that their humans are supporting them and not doing something to them that could honestly leave a person with lots of emotional scarring and questions and guilt. It's not that time is ever easy. It's always devastating. But what my clients often report is just somehow in knowing what they wanted and what they needed, and clearly when they were ready, there was no more question left. They said it's so difficult, but yet there was a grace about it. And if that's what I can give back to human parents, and it's not because it's what I think. It doesn't matter what I think. I am not important in this equation in terms of anything that I think, except for the fact that I can hear what they're saying and I can be a conduit and just translate it directly. So there's better communication, and there's just like you said, an improved quality of life. It's not my opinion. It's actually them speaking. So
yes.
it's a fascinating experience. I feel like I love my work so much because I am constantly learning something new. I'm not an expert because I have all the answers. I've just done things a lot of times and feel comfortable enough with what's happening. But it's so much fun to every day have a new, so what's going on with you? And what do we need to work on here? And how, and hearing all these different perspectives. Because you would think the way we think about breeds, right? Well, all golden retrievers will say this. or all Jack Russells will, and it's not like that. You're dealing with these individuals that are fascinating. So I'm honored that I can assist you and Sophia at this time. It's really, I feel
Thanks.
very,
And I have a question about the course. Is it
yes,
going to be recorded so it could be taken at another
yes,
time,
yep,
fit into people's schedules?
absolutely. So every single class, and I started it right before July 4th because there are so many people that deal with firework reactivity, thunder and lightning reactivity, and I was like, you don't have to go through that every year. Your animal doesn't have to. A great majority of the time, because their bodies are out of balance, they're going to be more sensitive in their own body to loud noises. In other words, it's not going to process like really evenly and smoothly, especially if they're out of balance. It's going to ricochet off of aspects of their body, which really offsets and upsets their central nervous system even more. That's why sometimes it's so difficult to help them get calm. And no matter what you do or what you try, one of the things that does happen to work, you can try CBD oil. You can also try Thunder Shirt, okay? Because that compression doesn't allow the energy that's sort of imbalanced because bones might be out of whack. It doesn't allow it to ricochet as much. So there's a sense of being held. And then another thing in which I can teach you in the class and is exactly how to go through your dog's body to shift that. So you could see changes. It's not like a training or behavior issue. It's most of the time they literally cannot help it because something is stuck in their body. And like I said, I see people that go through 6, 7, 8 trainers, they can't fix it. You do one body work session, everyone's like, what happened? So yes, every single call is recorded. So even if you can't make it to the live, you can, you'll get the recording that night and you can start working with it with your dog. We've got a Facebook page, so we're always on there. You can ask any questions. And what I wanted to especially do for this group, because you're so amazing, an artist is so amazing, and what you've done is so incredible. Anybody that signs up before the 2nd, you will get a half an hour session with me at no charge. So you can, talk to me about what's going on with your animals. I can help support you with it. So you'll get the course. Plus, you'll get a 30-minute free session, which is about $180 value.
Wow.
That's fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Allecia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
So whether you'd like to take the class or not, or if I can be of any support to you, if you're just realizing that something's going on and it's not being addressed to the degree that you want it to be, feel free to contact me at animalhealer, HEELER.com. And I would love to support you and your animals in the greatest level of health and healing. And thank you both so much for everything that you do for this incredible valley and for all of the people here and all of the people beyond here, all of the incredible people you bring in, and just for really kind of devoting your life to human flourishing and also animal flourishing.
Thank you, Allecia. Good night.